An Oregon man stands accused of drugging the smoothies his daughter's young friends were drinking during a sleepover. And now some of his former coworkers say this isn't the first time he's shown potentially creepy behavior. We're discussing the criminal charges, the disturbing details from an affidavit, and more with acclaimed personal injury and sex abuse attorney David Ring. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey there, everybody. This is a Law&Crime legal alert and a Law&Crime YouTube takeover. Google Incognito tracked users' browsing data without their knowledge. Well, Mass Tort Alliance, one of our legal sponsors, is helping users file for compensation due to Google misleading the privacy of their incognito browser. So if you've used Google Incognito anytime since 2016, you can start your claim in less than 10 questions. Just go to incognitoclaims.com/LC takeover. 57-year-old Michael Meyden has been out of jail on $50,000 bail in Oregon since March when he was charged with multiple felonies. What am I talking about? Well, prosecutors accuse Meyden of making mango smoothies for his preteen daughter's friends during a sleepover and spiking those drinks with benzodiazepines. We're going to get into the exact details from a very disturbing affidavit in just a moment. And I want to warn all of you, there's no other way to say it. It's going to make your skin crawl, what I'm about to get into, but I prefaced it. So Meyden was reportedly a human resources manager for an energy company in Lake Oswego, Oregon. And a former coworker says that when they look back on it, some of Meyden's questions about their lives maybe seem a little creepy. One male colleague told the Daily Mail and New York Post he always wanted to know about our families. He'd ask about my kids, how old they are, what extracurriculars they liked. Then he'd tell me what his kids were up to. It seemed really innocent at the time. That same coworker says that Meyden started liking his daughter's cheerleading photos on Facebook. He would ask questions about her. He knew my kids' names and ages. He kept track of that stuff. I thought he was just being nice. But after Meyden was arrested in March and the affidavit was made public, things took a very sinister turn. For that, let me bring on David Ring, acclaimed personal injury and sex abuse attorney. David, good to see you. Thanks for coming on. We're about to go on a journey together as we go through this affidavit. Are you ready to do this?
I'm ready, Jesse.
All right. Let's get into it. So the document states that around 7 a.m. on Saturday, August 26th, two officers were dispatched to the report of three 12-year-old female juveniles at Randall Children's Hospital in Portland. They tested presumptive positive for benzodiazepine during a urine screen. The report was made by the emergency room charge nurse. The juveniles reported that they had attended a sleepover at their friend's home on the evening of Friday, August 25th, 2023, where they believed they had unknowingly been given drugs by their friend's father, Michael Meyden. Let's start right there. David, what's your initial take?
Unbelievable. But clearly this guy is a predator. And for those of you who don't know, this drug is commonly referred to as benzos, right? And it's Valium, Xanax. And this is the type of drug that if you take too much of it, it puts you into a deep, deep, deep sleep and knock you unconscious. And clearly this guy had a plan to have these girls rendered unconscious so he could do something terrible to them.
I'm going to get back to that because I'm not entirely clear what the plan was, if any. And to be clear, he's not charged with any sex crimes, right? He's only charged, and we'll get into the exact charges, but he's only charged with allegedly drugging these girls. But let's continue on. So the officer who wrote up this affidavit for the court did interviews with the girls and their parents. Quote, "During these interviews, I learned none of the parties were particularly close with the Meyden family or had been inside of their home. The girls had attended the same school and had been acquainted there. All the parents stated they communicated with Mr. Meyden regarding the sleepover. I learned Mr. Meyden is responsible for arranging most of his daughter's playdate arrangements as his wife's primary language is Japanese. The girls described Mr. Meyden to be very involved with their activities during the sleepover. Mr. Meyden has taken them to get their nails done, pick up a pizza for dinner, and directed their activities. The girls explained Mr. Meyden was constantly checking in on them and interjecting himself into their conversations. The girls stated they played in the sprinklers, went in the hot tub, took showers, and got ready for bed at Mr. Meyden's direction. The girls stated they spent the majority of their time in the basement where they were doing a spa night, watching movies while they did facials. David, what do you think?
Hey, look, I mean, that can be taken two different ways, okay? So the way it's written in the affidavit, it comes across as highly suspicious. But look, there's plenty of dads out there that, have sleepovers for their daughters and the girls come over and the dads, these are 12-year-old girls, the dad or the mom are supervising them. So taken at its face, okay, I mean, I don't see anything wildly unusual there. I think we need to get more into it to see what's going on. But
Okay.
just reading, but just from what you've said there, that can be read two different ways. Let's not indict
Okay.
every dad who has a sleepover at his house just yet.
Okay, fair enough. And remember, he is not charged with anything, no sexual related crimes, not touching them, anything like that. Okay, so let's be clear. But let's continue on. So according to the girls, and of course, you have to say with any kind of witness, there could and David, before I even get into it, with any kind of witness, right, there could be credibility issues, no matter how old or how young they are, right? So as we go through this,
Absolutely.
it goes on. Before they were instructed to go to bed, Mr. Meyden prepared a series of mango smoothies with orange and coconut flavors for them to drink. Mr. Meyden insisted they drink them. The girls were each served 2 smoothies in glass milkshake-style glasses. The smoothies were described as dull orange in color with tiny white chunks throughout and sprinkled on top. The smoothie's consistency was described as having a thinner liquid with bubbles in it. Mr. Meyden specifically gave each of the girls specific colored reusable straws to distinguish their own drink. Mr. Meyden was adamant that the girls drink out of their own cups. Now, the names, of course, are redacted here, but it says, quote, one victim reported she drank 2 entire cups of the orange-colored smoothie using a hot pink reusable straw. Another stated she drank 1 cup of the orange-colored smoothie using an orange reusable straw. And then the third stated she did not like smoothies and merely sipped out of a green or blue straw to be nice and barely drank any at all. The third victim stated Mr. Meyden encouraged her to try to drink and even made her a second smoothie and encouraged her to drink it, but she did not. She also said Mr. Meyden accused the third victim and another victim of switching straws between their first and second cup, and this upset him. The fourth girl recalled drinking a significant amount of the smoothie, but didn't know how much. That, to me, David, seems a little suspicious.
We've now crossed the line, Jesse. Now things are getting strange and weird because now you have a dad who's injected himself, and it sounds to me by the reading of that he's basically pressuring these 12-year-old girls and forcing them to drink these smoothies. Now that's weird. That's creepy. Red flag alert, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. If you thought this was already concerning enough, a man paying really close attention to the girls, insisting they drink these smoothies, getting upset, if one of them didn't follow the rules, it actually gets worse because the 12-year-olds, they go to sleep around midnight. 2 girls on the pull-out couch in the basement, 2 in a bed in the back bedroom. One of the victims explained that she and another victim were laying the same direction and her arm was over that girl's body. And she stated at some point, Mr. Meyden came downstairs and she pretended to be asleep. She stated that he removed her arm from the other girl's body and then separated them by moving the other girl's body further towards the opposite side of the bed. And this concerned the victim so much that she rolled over and placed her arm on the other girl, and she remained awake in fear that Mr. Meyden was going to do something to her. She stated that Mr. Meyden went upstairs. She stated she remained awake, and sometime after, Mr. Meyden returned downstairs to check on them again. So the victim stated that the second time Mr. Meyden came downstairs, he returned to the pull-out couch. She stated he removed her hand again from the other girl. She said she saw Mr. Meyden in the dim light place his finger underneath her nose as if to see if she was soundly asleep. He then waved his hand in front of her face. She stated she pretended to be asleep, and shortly after, he walked toward the sliding glass door and went outside into the backyard. The victim said she was scared and began to text and call her parents repeatedly. Now, the officer in the affidavit says, I observed a series of text messages from the victim to her mother at 1:43 a.m. Mom, please pick me up and say I had a family emergency. I don't feel safe. I might not respond, but please come get me. She was crying and then used the crying emoji. Please, please pick up. Please, please. The victim called and texted several friends requesting a ride. David, what is going on?
There is a lot to unpack there, Jesse. But look, I mean, the first thing that strikes me is this young girl. What a heroine! I mean, to have the courage to realize something is wrong and to text her parents and to make it crystal clear that she needed to get out of there and was persistent about it. There's not a lot of kids that would do that. Adults have great sway over young kids, especially if they're the parent of one of your friends. And most kids are just going to assume that they have good intentions, and they would just go along with it. So for this girl to realize how suspicious and creepy and wrong what this guy's actions were, good for her. And clearly, this predator, he had a plan. We'll get to it, I'm sure. But he had a plan. He's going down there twice to see if they're asleep or unconscious.
Let's talk about that. Again, he hasn't been charged with touching the girls, any sex crimes. He's only been charged with drugging them. I mean, I say only charged. I mean, that's pretty serious set of felonies. But I don't understand what was going on here, what the motive would be to do this. What's your take? And again, it's pure speculation at this point because we just don't know.
Well, I don't think it's pure speculation. I mean, I think I've been around enough cases that this guy had a plan, and his plan was to render these girls essentially unconscious and sexually assault one of them. That's what I think was going on. And thank God he didn't do that. He didn't get away with it. Therefore, no charges for sexual assault.
And he went outside, at one point and then came back in. It's such a weird situation.
It's weird, but clearly he had some plan to take advantage of them in an unconscious state. And what could that possibly be? What's the plan? I mean, the only one that leaps to my mind is he's going to sexually assault one of the girls in some way.
But you wouldn't be able to charge that without more, right? Without more, you wouldn't be able to prove that.
Exactly, because he didn't get away with it. Thank God he didn't get away with it. He didn't. This girl was able to put an end to it before he got that far. But the charges that the counts he's charged with are very, very serious. They're felonies, and he's going to go to prison for a while.
We'll get to that in a second. I want to continue on with the affidavit, what happened next. So she stated, this victim, Mr. Meyden, returned from the sliding glass door, stood near the headboard for what she thought was 15 minutes. She stated she could feel him watching her by his presence as she kept her eyes shut, pretending to be asleep. She said when he finally went upstairs, she continued trying to get a hold of anyone she could to pick her up. The girl did manage to get a hold of a family friend, explained what was happening, so the friend agreed to come get her. And get this, according to the affidavit, the preteen says that Meyden came down to the basement a third time. He went into the bathroom, and she said this bathroom had an adjoining door to the bedroom that the other two girls were in, and she was concerned for the other two girls in the bedroom. So the victim states when she received a text message that the family friend was outside, Mr. Meyden came out of the bathroom. The victim stated she immediately told him she had a family emergency and she was being picked up. She stated Mr. Meyden seemed drunk and explained he murmured and slurred his response. He did not prevent her from leaving. She stated that she went into the garage to retrieve her shoes using a very loud door. She said she was concerned when the other girls didn't wake up. That's why she apparently slammed the door. So when the 12-year-old got home, she woke up her parents. From the redaction, it's difficult to tell exactly what's going on, but they're trying to call the parents of the other girls, and at least two of the other parents were unable to be reached. So they headed to Meyden's house around 3 a.m. The affidavit says that a mother, appears to be a mother, knocked on the door, was met by Mr. Meyden. She explained to him she was there to take the girls home. He replied, "I don't understand." Mr. Meyden stated he would go check on the girls. The mother stood at the front door while Mr. Meyden went back into the house. And after a few minutes, he returned, stated the girls were asleep, insisted she come back in the morning Fortunately, they were able to convince Meyden to show them where the girls were sleeping. They woke up the two remaining guests, apparently leaving Maiden's daughter there in the home. David, your reaction to that next part?
Well, okay, a couple of reactions. One, again, great job by these parents who believed their daughter, who didn't just go, "Oh, come on, you're exaggerating this. There's no way this guy did anything like that. The other girls are fine." They believed her, and they actually did something about it. They went over there and demanded that these other girls be taken out of the house so they could take them to their parents. Great job. My other my other reaction to that is, well, where's Mrs. Maiden this whole time? Where's the
Mm,
where's the wife? Where is she involved in all this? How does he get away with all of this going on, with people knocking on his door, with a girl slamming the door to leave? Where's the wife in all of this? That's an eyebrow raiser to me.
it's a fair question. Maybe we'll get some more answers on that one. But continuing on with this affidavit, so the officer apparently interviewed another of the girls around noon on Saturday. So that's about 12 hours after she drank the smoothies. And the affidavit states that she walked slowly, used the assistance of her mother for balance. Her eyelids were heavy. She spoke slowly. She recalled starting to feel woozy, hot, clumsy shortly after drinking that second smoothie. She couldn't recall what occurred upon blacking out, but the victim shared that she went into a thick, deep sleep that she had never experienced before. The officer states, based on my interviews of parents and juveniles, I know that none of the juveniles are prescribed, have access to, or experiment with recreational drugs and benzodiazepines. I have probable cause and believe it to be true. Mr. Meyden surreptitiously provided and is responsible for the benzodiazepines found in the juvenile's body. He has been charged with 3 felony counts of causing another person to ingest a controlled substance, 3 felony counts of applying a Schedule 4 controlled substance to the body of a minor, and 3 misdemeanor counts of delivering to a minor a Schedule 4 controlled substance. Now, the affidavit doesn't mention where Maiden's wife was during all of this. We do know that she and Meyden were divorced within a couple of months of this incident, but before an arrest. He's due back in court next month. Talk to me about these charges and talk to me about if there's any kind of defense, innocent explanation for this, because it seems pretty clear that they had these substances in their body. If you take what the officer said, there's nothing to suggest they were prescribed it, that they were abusing this on their own. The only way to get this into their systems was through the shakes, through the smoothies. Is there any kind of defense? Is there any kind of innocent explanation for this to these really serious charges?
I don't see any defense to that. Look, these are very, very powerful drugs. I mean, let's assume it's Valium or Xanax. That's basically what we're talking about when we talk about benzos. And obviously those are prescribed, and you're supposed to take low dosage of those. So if he is mixing that up into a smoothie and he's putting several of those pills in each smoothie, that's going to have the exact effect that that girl described, where she basically is in the deepest sleep of her life and is in a trance and feels like she's unconscious and has difficulty moving. And so it seems crystal clear that the way that these girls were given those benzos was through the smoothies. And who was the
Yeah.
person directing them to drink the smoothies and had them all separated out with colored straws? The perpetrator, this dad. I mean, he clearly had a plan to get them to knock them unconscious.
If first of all, how serious are these charges? What are we looking at in terms of potential punishment, if you know? And is this the type of case where he would ultimately take a deal? And what would a deal look like?
These are very serious charges. I mean, it's a weird name, causing another person to ingest a controlled substance. Well, that's a technical legal name, but the bottom line is those are serious felonies, and he's charged with several of them. And so he's facing, significant jail or prison time for these. And look, I think if he rolled the dice and somehow went to trial and offered up some sort of lame explanation of his role in all of this, I don't see anybody buying his story. And the outrage factor, any parent out there, any person out there who hears this, just like you and I have the same reaction. It's just pure
Yeah.
outrage. And they are going to throw the book at this guy to make sure he is off the streets and in prison where he belongs.
Well, listen, I don't know what could have happened next. I don't even want to imagine what could have happened next. All I know is I agree with you. Brave actions from that girl to do that. This is a horrifying case. It's even difficult for me to go through that affidavit, some of the more creepy details I've heard in quite some time. David Ring, thanks so much for coming on, giving your perspective. Really appreciate it. I wish it was a different kind of case we were talking about, but yeah, really appreciate your perspective nonetheless, sir.
All right. Thank you, Jesse.
And that is all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.